Justice and the Vice President of the Supreme Court, Lady Justice Philomena Mwilu, the Speaker of the Senate, the Solicitor General, the Justices of the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal, the Justices of the High Court and the Court of Equal Status, Excellencies, Ambassadors and High Commissioners, the Commissioners of the Judicial Service Commission. I can see the President of the Law Society of Kenya and all the learned friends in the tent, the representative of the Director of Public Prosecutions. Today's launch of the 2019-2020 edition of the State of the Judiciary and Administration of Justice Annual Report presents another opportunity to showcase the progress that have been made by the various agencies in the justice sector in realizing advances in critical areas such as case backlog clearance, deepening of performance management frameworks, expansion of physical infrastructure, increased uptake of ICT, and strides in the area of integrity, among others. Section 5, subsection 2B of the Judicial Service Act requires the Honorable the Chief Justice to give an annual report to the nation on the state of the judiciary and the administration of justice. But what I want to emphasize is the next sentence in that provision, that the report is to be published in the Gazette and a copy thereof sent under the hand of the Chief Justice to each of the two clerks of the two houses of Parliament for it to be placed before the respective houses for debate and adoption. Although personally I have not had debate in both houses as required by law, at least I have read extremely useful reports of the National Assembly each year adopting the State of the Judiciary report. For instance, the report of the Departmental Committee of Justice and Legal Affairs of the National Assembly dated 9th May last year on the 2017-2018 State of the Judiciary report made some very interesting and useful recommendations. I will cite only two because of their relevance to this occasion. One, on the Office of the Judiciary Ombudsman, the report says as follows: the judiciary shall submit to the National Assembly for enactment a legislative proposal to entrench the office of the Judiciary Ombudsman in law. B, the judiciary should create public awareness on the role and functions of the office of the Ombudsman and increase its effectiveness. I say no more, save to stress that had this been done, perhaps we would not be engaged in the debate we are currently engaged in. On the shortage of judges and inadequate funding of the judiciary, this is what the report says. A, delayed conclusion of cases not only frustrate litigants, but also hamper economic growth of the country, and that the delay and backlog of cases can be attributed to shortage of judges. B, National Assembly and National Treasury should allocate adequate resources to the judiciary to enable it engage more judges and to address its financial needs and issues. Talking of shortage of judges, of all the courts, the Court of Appeal, which I'm honored to represent, is the worst hit, with only 15 judges currently. If, God forbid, if anything was to happen to two of them, we would be reaching below the threshold allowed by the Constitution, and therefore the Court of Appeal will cease to exist. With only 15 judges, 2 of them not full-time, the director of JTI and our representative to Judicial Service Commission, and myself, leaving only 12 judges actively involved in hearing of cases. So should this number fall below 12, then we'll be running the risk of losing the Court of Appeal altogether. The lesson we learned from what I've just read out is that the launch of these reports are not talk shops, that we must follow-up mechanism, we must have follow-up mechanisms to ensure that the recommendations that we get from the National Assembly and the Senate are implemented. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Justice Ouko. This is an accountability forum, and the Judicial Service Commission exists to, among others, hold us accountable to promote and facilitate our independence and accountability. And this morning, we are grateful to have the Vice Chair of the Judicial Service Commission, Commissioner Mercy Deche, to speak to us. Commissioner, join me, please, in welcoming Commissioner Deche to address us.
The Honorable Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court, Honorable Justice David Maraga, the Honorable Deputy Chief Justice and Vice President of the Supreme Court, Honorable Justice Philomena Mwilu, Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Kenneth Lusaka, the Solicitor General, Mr. Kennedy Ogeto, my colleagues, fellow commissioners of the Judicial Service Commission present, judges of the Supreme Court, the honorable judges of the Court of Appeal led by the President, Honorable Justice Ouko, judges of the High Court led by the Principal Judge, Justice Lydia Achode, judges of the ELC, I do not see my brother, Justice Okongo, but I see Justice Eboso, the Honorable Judges of the ELRC, led by the Principal Judge, Honorable Justice Maureen Odero, my President, the President of the Law Society of Kenya, Mr. Nelson Harvey, magistrates, registrars present, heads of commissions and independent offices, the Bishop Emeritus, Bishop David Oginde, members of the diplomatic corps, development partners, and all our partners in the justice sector, judicial staff, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. That's quite a list. But the Judicial Service Commission is happy this morning to join the CJ and the Judiciary at the launch of this 7th edition of the State of the Judiciary and Administration of Justice report. Now, this is the 7th edition, and it is being launched on a Friday on the 27th. Now, those are many 7ths, but I know or I imagine they have nothing to do with the fact that our Chief Justice is a staunch Seventh-day Adventist. I believe, CJ, it is just sheer coincidence. But having said that, I am made to understand that number 7 is not just a number, that it is significant to most religions. And Bishop Oginde here might tell you that in Christianity, number 7 represents completion and perfection. So I want to believe that this 7th soldier will usher in the judiciary to a season of completion, and perfection. So undoubtedly, that's why you should have clapped. But undoubtedly, SOJA is an important accountability tool for the judiciary in particular and for the justice sector as a whole. And its utility is in decision making. And for those who are academically inclined like myself, it is an important source of information as far as data is concerned. And somebody who's present in the room, that's Duncan Okello, normally refers to it as a supermarket of information. I would challenge you to look at previous SOJA reports and see how rich they are. But they are more than just a supermarket of information, as the President of the Court of Appeal has stated. They are actually, the SOJA is actually a report card. And that report card matches the resources. It juxtaposes the services that have been rendered against the resources that have been provided. And as the CRJ has stated, those resources are normally at 47% of what the judiciary needs. So I might put it that it is a juxtaposition of the services that have been rendered by the judiciary against a shoestring budget. But today is not a day of grumbling, it's a day of launching the SOJA report, but that's just the way things are. We normally operate at actually 0.4% of the national budget. The JSC, whose main constitutional duty is to ensure the independence and accountability of the judiciary, takes this exercise very seriously. And this explains the presence of my colleagues present here at this event, and those that are not here are away with apologies known to the CJ. So the iteration between the JSC and the judiciary in their structures, composition, and daily operations makes these interests of the JSC to this activity inevitable. The report that is being launched today, as all previous ones, chronicles the key developments in the justice sector for the period under review. For the judiciary and the NCAJ, as well as the JTI, the bodies over which JSC has some oversight, I can attest to the fact that a substantial part of these results have origination or confirmation from the Commission. The Commission has played its part to support the leadership and management of the judiciary, while remaining redoubtable in its commitment to the promotion and defense of the independence and accountability of the institution. It would be remiss of me if I fail to mention that the JSC itself prepares and submits its annual report to Parliament to comply with the requirements of Article 254 of the Constitution and Section 38(1) of the JS Act, which stipulates that the Commission shall prepare an annual report detailing the financial statements, activities, among others, and has to be published and made public. Now, let me finish by saying that these accountability reports are useful. However, they will only become more effective if the public engages with them, Parliament debates them, and the institutions receive feedback on them. I see my president here, and as a very critical stakeholder in the justice sector, I would invite the Law Society of Kenya to consider institutionalizing the debate of the SOJA report and to make it part of our custom, I mean the Law Society of Kenya, to issue a detailed and considered communique on it to be shared with the judiciary leadership and Parliament going forward. That is my proposal, Mr. President. But finally, since this is also the CJ's last SOJA report, Honorable Chief Justice, I have instructions from my colleagues here, the commissioners, to thank you for your service and for steering the commission as its chair for the last 4 years. So we do thank you, Honorable Chief Justice, and we really wish you well. Of course, I'm saying this knowing that we do have several other JSC meetings in the next couple of days, but I thought that this would be important to mention in public. We are really, really grateful for that. So finally, I wish all of us good health, sanitize, keep wearing your masks, observing social distance and all the protocols that have been given to us by the Ministry of Health. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Deche, for those remarks. Our next speaker is Judge of the Supreme Court, Judge Ibrahim, who is also the chair of the Supreme Court Strategic Planning Committee. Please join me in welcoming Judge Ibrahim as he comes up.
Thank you. The Honorable Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court, the Honorable Deputy Chief Justice and Vice President of the Supreme Court, the Honorable Speaker of the Senate, the Honorable President of the Court of Appeal, the judges of the Court of Appeal, judges of the High Court, honorable judges of the Employment and Labor Courts, honorable judges of the Land and Environment Courts, the Honorable Solicitor General, the Honorable Member of Parliament, Honorable Jennifer Shamala, representing the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, members of the Judicial Service Commission, Director of Public Prosecutions, if he's represented, the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary, the President of the Law Society of Kenya, development partners, heads of agencies of the NCAJ, honorable magistrates and judicial staff, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is a great pleasure to join you today for the presentation of the State of the Judiciary and Administration of Justice for the financial year 2019-2020. This is an important event as it provides an opportunity for the judiciary to report to stakeholders in the justice sector and the public on the achievements and challenges in the administration of justice. I take this opportunity to congratulate the Honorable Chief Justice, the entire judiciary, and the justice sector for the successes that we are celebrating here today. Today also marks another important event, which is the launch of the strategic plan of the Supreme Court, 2020-2024. The Supreme Court completed a comprehensive exercise of developing the strategic plan to guide its activities and operations. The document we are launching today is a second strategic plan for the court following the successful implementation of the strategic plan of 2013-2017. It is a product of consultative process involving extensive document reviews, brainstorming sessions with the court judges, and stakeholders' engagement. The plan builds on the experiences and achievements of the previous strategic plan and defines how the court will operate over the next 5 years between 2020, 2021, and 2024-2025 financial years. The Judiciary Strategic Plan 2019 to 2023 and other institutional and strategic policies in place to guide the judiciary's operations. More importantly, the strategic plan seeks to strategically position the court to effectively discharge its mandate, enhance its performance, and meet the expectations of its diverse stakeholder segments. In this regard, the strategic plan will, over the next 5 years, seek to build synergies and ensure alignment of efforts and resources to a common direction. The specific strategies and interventions in the strategic plan are built around 5 key result areas. The first one is enhancing access to and expeditious delivery of justice, knowledge and management and enhancement of jurisprudence, entrenching transparency, accountability, and integrity, enhancing the court identity and public awareness. These 5 areas compose of and consolidate the key responsibilities of the Supreme Court, which the courts and stakeholders and have endorsed. The court and the stakeholders have endorsed as being core to the court's mandate. As a court, it is our hope that the strategic plan will provide a common basis of understanding and engagement with all of our stakeholders and players in the justice sector and enhance our contribution to the administration of justice. I hope that the copies of the strategic plan of the Supreme Court that we are speaking about will be availed to you after the launch. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Judge. Our next speaker is Honorable Ken Lusaka, Speaker of the Senate. Honorable Lusaka is joining us, I think, for the 4th time running, and we do not take that for granted. Thank you so much for being here. Please join me in welcoming Honorable Lusaka, Speaker of the Senate.
Thank you so much. You realize I come from another arm of government, so to save myself from wading into protocol mess, allow me just to acknowledge the Chief Justice, who is also the President of the Supreme Court, Honorable David Maraga, the Deputy CJ, the Solicitor General, Chief Registrar, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, because I realize the protocols are very long and I may not get them right. So I'm glad to join the judiciary fraternity and other invited guests during this important annual event in the calendar of the judiciary, the day when the President of the Supreme Court, who is also the chairperson of the National Council on the Administration of Justice, has an opportunity to give us a status report on the state of the judiciary and administration of justice in the country during the year under review. So today we take stock of the progress made and challenges faced by the third arm of government, the judiciary, in its quest to enhance access to justice in Kenya in the financial year 2019-2020. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, an independent judiciary is a great pillar of democracy and hope for justice in a country. It plays a role as an arbiter during times of conflict and carries the soul of a nation through its purposive interpretation of the Constitution and other related laws of a country. And I'm happy to note that as Senate, in very extreme circumstances, we have also ended up with a judiciary who have resolved quite serious issues that face us as Parliament. So this is why the legislature, in its wisdom, provided for this event through a statutory provision under Section 52B of the Judicial Service Act. So allow me to thank the judiciary for the efforts expended in taking justice close to the people and reducing the backlog of the cases pending before our various courts, especially in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. In my own assessment, the judiciary has made great strides in ensuring access to justice. Similarly, allow me to thank all the development partners who have supported the judiciary in its quest for reforms and service delivery. Let me also laud the effort of the Kenya Law Reports in keeping the database of all laws up to date, thus easing the access to legal records. John Alston said, and I quote, "The only thing you take with you when you are gone is what you leave behind." So as the Chief Justice appraises the country on the milestones and reforms made by the judiciary in improving access to all of us are called to reflect on the important roles we all play in supporting the judiciary in the realization of this important cause. On the very least, let us not be the obstacles. Let us not be the reason Kenyans will not get access to justice. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, even though we belong to different arms of government with distinct mandates, we symbiotically need one another. Even though we are not all judges or judicial officers, our actions must always allow us to coexist peacefully with one another. Even though we may hold different philosophies or opinions on issues and belong to different political affiliations, I believe there is something we can agree on as leaders: to be passionate without being personal. In a democratic jurisdiction such as ours, it's proper for institutions to hold divergent views, act independently, exercise autonomy, and continue to jealously guard the manner in which they discharge their constitutional mandates. However, being public institutions of governance, our institutions are duty-bound to coexist harmoniously in the common dispensation of service to the people of Kenya. Our decisions and outputs must be seen to advance the greater public interest, not negate them. As leaders, we must manage and resolve our differences for the benefit of our people. And this is why I remain optimistic that with regular consultations and dialogue, effective and regular communication, integration of legislatures in executive activities, mutual respect for each other, and strategic interaction on issues, we will better perform our functions and roles. In the words of Barack Obama, and I quote, "It's important to make sure that we are talking with each other in a way that heals, not a way that wounds." I am aware there are areas the legislature does not necessarily agree with the judiciary, and I call up all of us to make it our duty to keep seeking better avenues of resolving any outstanding disputes. I urge all of us to keep working on those areas with the aim of finding a long-term solution to those problematic areas. If it is laws, we must make them in the best interest of Kenyan people. If it's judicial decisions, let them be just. I cannot overemphasize the need for harmonious coexistence amongst all of the government and institutions of government. This is the oil that greases the intergovernmental relations. So as I conclude, I want to appreciate the warm and cordial relationship we have enjoyed with the judiciary and reassure you of the requisite support. Let me assure you of the commitment of the Senate towards the attainment or the realization of a just society. We will continue to lend our support to the judiciary in its pursuit of fairness, equity, and equality before the law, access to justice, and the rule of law. Of course, as I finish, I also want to thank the Honorable Justice and your team for the way you have steered the judiciary. I know it has been sometimes not been very easy, but just like they say, if you cannot withstand the heat in the kitchen, never aspire to be a cook. So I know that you have done it very well, and as you go into retirement, we know you'll continue playing other roles and building this nation in whichever capacity that you will be. And I know that you leave the judiciary stronger than I believe you found it, and those you are leaving behind will take up the legacy that you'll be leaving. And to all of you, I know it may not be easy to congregate again the way we have done. Just want to wish you Merry Christmas and a happy, prosperous 2021. And I'm very happy that I'm able to talk to you today, because if action was taken, I would be jobless. You know what I mean? Because I'm a servant of a house, so I'm happy that I'm still a speaker of a house. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Speaker, for your remarks and for the support that we continue to receive from the Senate. At this point, it's my humble duty and privilege to invite the Honorable, the Deputy Chief Justice, Vice President of the Supreme Court, Judge Philomena Mwilu, to address us, and then invite the Honorable, the Chief Justice, to give his address as well. Deputy Chief Justice, please. Please join me in welcoming him.
My Lord, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya and the President of the Supreme Court, the Right Honorable Speaker of the Senate, my brother, the President of the Court of Appeal, the Vice Chair, and fellow commissioners of the Judicial Service Commission, the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary, the Honorable the Solicitor General, my colleague judges across the courts, judicial officers, our staff, representatives from our justice sector partners, esteemed members of the diplomatic corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I want to start by thanking God for enabling us to be assembled here today. I am praying for those people who have been afflicted during this pandemic, and I thank God and thank all the frontline workers, for continuing to work under extremely difficult circumstances to keep us safe. Since the beginning of the year 2020, the world and the country and the judiciary have faced unprecedented challenges related to the COVID-19 pandemic. I thank God once more for enabling us to dispense justice even in these very difficult times. Ladies and gentlemen, the judiciary family comes today to give its scorecard for the year 2019-2020. Though the judiciary activities and programs were severely affected by the COVID-19 related constraints, I'm happy to note that judges, judicial officers, and judiciary staff remained committed to the realization of the institution's targets, objectives, particularly under the Honorable the Chief Justice's strategic blueprint, sustaining judiciary transformation, a service delivery agenda for the period 2017-2021. I thank everyone who has played a role in ensuring that the institution adheres to the necessary Ministry of Health protocols towards ensuring the safety of all court users. I particularly laud all those responsible for the development and implementation of digital solutions that have allowed many judges, magistrates, cathies, and tribunals to continue to safely hear matters across the country, the difficulties notwithstanding. In the House and inside the management, we are aware of the challenges that those using the systems face from time to time. But such is the nature of technology. What is clear is this, that during the current pandemic, we have progressed irreversibly in leaps and bounds in leveraging ICT in the dispensation of justice. There can be no turning back. I would urge all justice consumers, more particularly the advocates and the wider public, to please continue being supportive and considerate as we implement and endeavor to improve these technologies. We are trying to do the best with the little money that we have. I thank the members of the public, our clients and court users, our partner state organs, the Parliament, the Executive, county governments, and all justice system partners and stakeholders for their continued support as the judiciary continues on its journey of transformation into a modern, efficient, responsive judiciary that will deliver expeditious quality service to the people of Kenya. Before I invite you, the Honorable the Chief Justice, to deliver your speech today and to give us the judiciary's scorecard, allow me, at a personal level and on behalf of many judges, many judicial officers, and a lot of grateful Kenyans, to pay a most heartfelt tribute to your Lordship for your accomplished stewardship and transformative leadership over the past 4 years. Your vision, your reason, and optimism have permanently improved the judiciary, and your achievements under the SJT strategic blueprint have resulted in tangible improvements in access to justice for many Kenyans. You've been steward in commitment to our constitutional democracy, unwavering in your commitment to the rule of law, and passionate about substantially improving service delivery through the judiciary. I know my words fail to capture the full measure of you, my Lord Chief Justice David Kenani Maraga, my friend, but the high esteem in which you are held by your fellow judges, jurists, both local and international, and by very many people in this country, speaks for itself. It has been a high honor serving as your deputy and seeing firsthand your integrity, decency, hard work, and commitment to the oath that you took to serving the judiciary and the Republic of Kenya. You have been quite the slave driver, but we have taken it with full understanding. For me personally, it has been quite the experience. And now, as always, it is my singular honor and privilege to invite you, Honorable Chief Justice, to deliver your remarks on this very important day and give us the scorecard for the judiciary for the period 2019-2020. God bless us all here present. God bless this country. God bless the judiciary of Kenya. Thank you very much.
The Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Kenny Lusaka, the Deputy Chief Justice, of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Philomena Mwilu, the judges of the Supreme Court here, the judges of other courts, members of the Judicial Service Commission, led by the Vice Chair of the Judicial Service Commission, Mr. Ken Ugetu, our Solicitor General, ladies and gentlemen, please forgive me to say all protocols observed because I didn't get the entire protocol, lest anybody thinks that I have missed him or out. Ladies and gentlemen, and the distinguished members of the police band, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm delighted this morning to welcome you all to the presentation of the State of the Judiciary and Administration of Justice Report, SOJA, for the financial year 2019-2020. But I'm also happy to see you today, as this is my last report before I retire as Chief Justice. The report, therefore, looks at our performance during this year, but also glances at the progress and challenges throughout the 4-year period of my tenure. As this is also, as it were, my valedictory speech, please allow me to also make a few observations in addition. As you are aware, Section 52B of the Judicial Service Act obligates the Chief Justice to prepare and submit a report to the nation on the state of the judiciary and administration of justice in the country, and to further submit the same report to Parliament for debate and adoption. This obligation is in tandem with the text and the spirit of the Constitution, which places accountability and transparency at the center of all governance processes. One of the most transformative provisions of our Constitution, a provision which is unique to our Constitution and which, as leaders and institutions, we need to constantly be alive to, is one that is worth restating, that judicial power and authority, like all other state power, is explicitly recognized as emanating from the common sovereignty of the people and donated to state institutions for its performance. The powers and sovereignty donated to state institutions are thus exercised on behalf of and for the benefit of the people to whom the radical title to power and authority ultimately belongs. So the delegates, like myself, should regularly report and account to the Kenyan people. For the judiciary and the justice sector generally, the Constitution goes further to lay down specific and core principles and objects that should provide fundamental guidance and direct the exercise of judicial power and authority. Article 159 explicitly provides that judicial authority is derived from the people and shall be exercised in a manner that promotes justice for all, equally and without discrimination, and that justice shall be administered in an expeditious manner that ensures no delay. The Constitution also provides that the administration of justice should embrace and incorporate alternative forms of justice, including reconciliation, mediation, arbitration, and other alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. This broad guide provides the basis and the premise upon which the judiciary and the justice sector operate in a bid to meet the justice needs of the Kenyan people. The bottom line of this constitutional command to the judiciary is access to justice. I want to state that in spite of the various barricades placed in our path, but imbued by the commands of the new constitution, the judiciary has performed substantially well since 2010, when the new constitution was promulgated. There is no doubt that the judiciary is still imperfect, but it stands out as one of the most reformed public sector institutions in the last decade, at least both in effort and effect. On every metric of service, our performance has been on an upswing. Jurisprudence, access to justice, case backlog reduction, enhanced integrity, court infrastructure, technology, staff welfare, accountability, public outreach, and so on. And this record is not a fairy tale. It is there to see in the 7 editions of SOJA that have been prepared and presented since 2012, and which are all in the public domain. In 2012, my predecessor, retired Justice Dr. Willie Mutunga, embarked on an ambitious judiciary transformation plan dubbed the Judiciary Transformation Framework, JFT. The JFT, which lapsed in 2016, facilitated fundamental structural and institutional changes that set into motion a number of processes geared at enhancing access to justice, which included case backlog clearance, leveraging on technology for service delivery, and expanded the court establishments and fiscal infrastructure of the judiciary in order to enhance fiscal access to the courts. I assumed office on the 19th of October 2016, and 3 months later, on the 26th of January 2017, I launched the current Judiciary Blueprint, Sustaining Judiciary Transformation, a Service Delivery Agenda 2017-2021. The SJD Blueprint has guided service delivery and the administration of justice in the judiciary for the last 4 years. The thrust of SJT was to build on the gains of the previous blueprint, Judiciary Transformation Framework, by accelerating service delivery using the initial structures and systems that were put in place during the JTF phase. Thus, as a point of departure, the SJT emphasizes on improved work methods, enhancement of individual and institutional accountability, entrenching performance management, monitoring, evaluation, as well as optimizing technology for service delivery in order to achieve the pillars that undergird the strategy. Case backlog and the rising workload in the courts in Kenya is a perennial challenge and concern for the judiciary, and I'm sure by the public at large. Case clearance thus remains a core focus for both the JTF and SJT documents, with impressive results over the years. During the launch of the SJT at the beginning of my term, I made a pledge to the nation that the judiciary was to clear all cases that were 5 years and older, and do so within 2 years. At that time, there were 170,186 cases that fell in this category. And with the passage of time between 2017 and 2020, some more cases transitioned to the 5-year category. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to report this morning that through various strategies, the judiciary was able to clear a total of 201,206 cases that were 5 years old and over between the period of January 2017 and June 2020. At the end of the reporting period, that is June 30th, 2020, there were only 35,359 cases that were 5 years old that remained unresolved, representing a 71% overall reduction. That feat was achieved as a result of dedicated strategies such as service weeks, which saw judges and judicial officers move to stations with heavier backlogs to assist in clearance of those cases. Besides the clearance of the older matters, an analysis of the rate of disposal of matters in courts, that's case clearance rates, also shows that courts have greatly improved in their efficiency in the disposal of filed cases. A total of 337,510 cases were filed in our courts during the period under review, out of which we resolved 289,728 during the same period. When I took over office, the case clearance rate, which measures the rate at which courts clear cases filed within a given period, was at 42%. This increased over the years to 97% in the year 2018-2019. However, due to the disruption of court activities caused by the current coronavirus pandemic, the case clearance rate fell by 10% to 87% as at June 2020. Despite this impressive effort to clear all cases, case statistics over the years show a steadily increasing workload for the judiciary. In the year 2016-2017, there were 499,341 cases pending, which number rose to 533,187 in the year 2017-2018, and further to 569,859 in the year 2018-2019. The figure was 617,582 as at the end of June this year. The trend of rising caseload is consistent in all tiers of our courts. The Court of Appeal, for instance, is statutorily required to have a complement of 30 judges, but is currently served by only 16 judges, about half of its legally established complement. As a result, in spite of the best efforts of the judges of that court and the court's most enthusiastic and robust application of technology, the case backlog in the Court of Appeal, that is cases over 1 year, have shot from 3,681 in 2018-2019 to 4,982 this year. The case clearance rate for the Court of Appeal has also fallen from 51% to 41% during the same period. I may add that there is a similar general trend that is observable across all the courts. The rising workload in the courts is evidence that the judiciary is increasingly unable to cope with the rising numbers of cases that are filed in our courts, an issue that I will revert to in these remarks. Without increasing human resource capacity in the number of judges and judicial officers, the elimination of case backlog will remain a pipe dream. The Constitution calls upon the judiciary to ensure means and channels of dispensation of justice beyond court adjudication of cases. A number of measures have been taken to enhance the dispensation of justice through alternative forms of dispute resolution, ADR, with promising results. Strategies in this regard include the implementation of court-annexed mediation program with very promising results. During the period under review, some 3,540 matters with a total estimated value of 13.5 billion Kenya shillings were referred to mediation, and 1,077 of these were successfully settled. An estimated 3,000 cases are currently referred to court-annexed mediation program, and the records we have show that about 11.5 billion Kenya shillings tied up in litigation is released annually into the economy. Recently, the judiciary also launched alternative justice system policy, which will guide on the accommodation of traditional and indigenous justice systems, and implementation is underway. A survey we conducted ahead of the rollout of HIS revealed that over 90% of disputes are resolved away from the courts in forums such as indigenous or traditional systems, religious organizations, and other non-judicial systems of justice. We only handle 10% of the disputes that find their way to the courts. It is therefore necessary that our justice system recognizes and takes on board these systems of justice that serve the needs of our people. Finally, on the modes of informal and expeditious disposal of cases, the judiciary is in the process of operationalizing the small claims courts, which are meant to ensure faster disposal of matters whose value is below 1 million shillings in a rather informal way. It is expected that a significant number of cases will also be disposed of through this initiative. On access to justice, we have made significant progress in enhancing the physical coverage of courts in a bid to reduce the distance court users travel to our courts. There are 61 ongoing court construction projects, 28 of which are World Bank funded through the Judiciary Performance Improvement Project, JPIP, while the rest are funded directly by the Government of Kenya. We have also seen increased partnerships with county governments, members of parliament, through the Constituency Development Fund, KITI, and other development partners who have supported the construction of court premises across the country. During my tenure, we managed to complete and open a total of 18 court buildings. In areas we have not managed to set up courts, we ran mobile court programs in order to reach the far-flung areas that are underserved. There are 60 mobile courts currently in operation across the country. One of the critical pillars of SJT is harnessing technology for service delivery. In this regard, we have made significant advancement in the uptake of technology to enhance service delivery. The judiciary embarked on automation of court proceedings and the digitization of court records, and continued to implement the case tracking system, which enables courts to track a case from registration to disposition. The system was installed in 26 new courts, bringing a total of 61 courts installed with CTS. Out of the total of 469,041 cases entered in the system since its introduction, 256,041 cases joined during the year under review. To assist in this exercise, 1,300 computers were acquired for various courts and offices during the year. Connecting our courts to a stable and reliable internet has been a key and a primary objective, as this forms the basis for other technology-based strategies for service delivery. At the start of SJT in 2017, only 34 courts were connected to internet. Over the last 4 years, this number has since grown to 147, which has enabled the judiciary to implement a number of solutions, especially during this period of coronavirus pandemic. Having previously made false attempts at automating our proceedings and digitizing our records, from the 1st of July this year, we made a bold decision on advice of the technical people, and started the e-filing system in all courts in Nairobi and the environs. The e-filing system, which is part of the strategy to leverage on technology for efficient and expeditious service delivery, had initially been piloted at the commercial division of the High Court. Since then, almost 3,000 law firms have registered onto the system. Over 20,000 new cases have been filed, and over 250 million Kenya shillings in court fee collected through the system. I must admit, we are currently experiencing some system challenges, but these are teething problems which are associated with such a huge new system. I want to thank the Law Society in particular for their continued support and encouragement in this regard. Even as they raise their challenges and complaints, they are steadfast in their resolve that we are not going back and that we should continue, and I want to thank them most sincerely for that. The challenges are continuously being addressed, and I'm sure we will soon overcome. As soon as we complete the ongoing recruitment of more ICT staff for support, the system will be rolled out to all parts of the country as soon as possible. While the current measures to combat COVID-19 resulted in downgrading of in-person court operations and other measures geared at placing the pandemic under control, the leveraging on technology has enabled us to continue offering service to the Kenyan people. So you can see how important technology is for our service delivery. I'm confident that these achievements, as well as several other components of judicial digital transformation, which are captured in the Judiciary ICT Master Plan, will be progressively implemented to facilitate the enhancement of access to justice. Despite the progress and the steps made in the years of operation of SJT, I must point out that we have achieved some of the above enumerated results under fairly difficult circumstances. The judiciary's performance would certainly have been different and a lot better, but for three reasons: interference with and frustration of the judiciary's independence, refusal to grant the judiciary financial autonomy, and disobedience of court orders. It is indisputable that during the former constitutional era, like it was during the colonial era, the judiciary was an appendage of the executive. Although the Independence Constitution textually embraced the doctrine of separation of powers and provided for an independent judiciary, that separation was only on paper. The judiciary remained substantially at the call and the beck of the executive arm of government. The history of that subservience is well documented by legal historians and government experts. This judicial subservience has serious implications for individual liberties, human rights of citizens, shared prosperity, and even economic development of the country. It is, in large part, this subservience that triggered Kenya's clamor for a new constitution and a demand for an independent judiciary, both in the letter and the spirit of the law. As the reports of the Constitution of Kenya Review Commission and the committee of experts demonstrate Kenyans deeming judicial independence an imperative for it to effectively discharge its mandate, created one in Chapter 10. It is this single-minded demand from Kenyans that culminated in the enactment of provisions such as Article 160 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, which provides that in the exercise of the people's judicial authority, the judiciary shall be subject only to the Constitution and the law, and shall not be subject to the control or direction of any person or authority. As regards the appointment of judges, Article 166(1)(b) of the Constitution states that the President shall appoint judges in accordance with the recommendation of the Judicial Service Commission. Despite this clear provision and 3 court orders, the President has failed to appoint the 41 judges, now 40 because one of them has since died, unfortunately, recommended to him by the Judicial Service Commission. Article 166(1)(b), and indeed the entire Constitution, does not require the President to perform any other act upon receipt of names recommended by the Judicial Service Commission, but to appoint them. Both the High Court and the Court of Appeal have been categorical that the President has no residual legal power to question or reject the names recommended to him by JSC, but to appoint them. The President cannot cherry pick from the list of nominees. If that is allowed, ladies and gentlemen, the independence of the judiciary will be irreparably ruined, and the presidential mischief and patronage in the appointment of judges that was prevalent under the old Constitution, and which is precisely what the new Constitution sought to remove by these new provisions, will effectively be restored. If indeed there are any of those nominees with integrity issues, as it is being alleged, which were not brought forward at the point of their open and public interview, this very Constitution has a mechanism for dealing with them. That is, to appoint them and lodge complaints with the Judicial Service Commission for their removal. In any case, since the promulgation of the Constitution 2010, the Judicial Service Commission has referred a total of 7 judges, some of them very senior, to be investigated by tribunals. Some of these decisions have been made pursuant to the petitions by very ordinary people, meaning that a factual petition by the President would definitely be promptly investigated and acted upon according to law. The history and the record of JSC of acting against judges when presented with facts demonstrates that the constitutional mechanisms for dealing with any claims of integrity against judges is working, and the invocation of non-disclosed claims cannot be used as a barrier against the appointment of any judges, particularly when it runs afoul the Constitution and violates the very well considered and rendered court decisions. This failure to appoint the 41 judges is clear interference with the independence of the judiciary, with the result that backlogs in our courts have continued to soar. I continue to urge the President to appoint those judges without any further delay. If we had completed the appointment of those judges, the JSC would have immediately embarked on the recruitment of 30 High Court judges as per the request by the principal judge of that court after needs assessment. The Court of Appeal, which is currently operating at half its capacity and accumulating backlog as a result, would be fully operational and decentralized. The long outstanding land and labor cases that continue to violate people's property rights and undermine vital agrarian-based economic activities will not abate unless the land and environment relations judges on that list are appointed and sworn in. The cost to Kenya's productive capacity by the continued refusal to appoint these judges is incalculable. Its cost to our reputation as a country governed by the rule of law and the known precepts of constitutionalism damages the health of our democracy and its institutions. Financial autonomy is a critical aspect of judicial independence. For it to effectively discharge its mandate, the judiciary requires not just adequate financial allocation, but also financial autonomy. Currently, the judiciary lacks both, as only 47% of its financial requests are funded, and the executive has failed to operationalize the judiciary fund. Somebody get me some drinking water. Thank you. Sorry for that. The judiciary would be terribly weakened if it were left to the benevolent discretion of an arm of government, against which it at times decides cases, as it should and does in critical matters. It is on record that when, in the case of Institute of Social Accountability and another versus the National Assembly and 4 others of 2015, the High Court rendered its decision on the issue of the constitutionality of the Constituency Development Fund. Parliament threatened to reduce the judiciary budget. When, in September 2017, the majority of the Supreme Court nullified the presidential election, it is on record that the President threatened to revisit. And the following financial year, we saw a reduction of the development vote of the judiciary budget from 2.1 billion to a paltry 50 million shillings. 2.1 billion to 50 million. That's why all over the country, GOK-funded court buildings are not completed yet the World Bank ones have and are being completed and launched. There are many other occasions when the courts have decided cases against the established positions of either the executive or the legislative arm of government, and sadly faced reprisals in various ways. Contrast these reprisals with how the JSC has operated and continues to operate. If it may give you comfort, you may be glad to know that the Judicial Service Commission, which employs, promotes, and initiates disciplinary action against judges and magistrates, has on some occasions had court orders issued against it. If it appeals and loses, as it has had at times, it obeys those court decisions. And those court decisions have no bearing on the career stability or progression of those judges and magistrates who have issued those orders. We have not gone on a petulant rant against the judicial officers who are just doing their job. And in my view, ladies and gentlemen, that is the way it should be. It is on the basis of this background that the people of Kenya enacted Article 173 of the Constitution to guarantee the judiciary financial autonomy and in turn guarantee judicial independence. Clause 1 of that article establishes the Judiciary Fund, and Clause 4 thereof directs that upon approval of the estimates by the National Assembly, the expenditure of the judiciary shall be a charge on the consolidated fund, and the funds shall be paid directly into the judiciary fund. End of quote. Whereas the enabling legislation and regulations have been put in place, as stated, the judiciary fund has not been operationalized for the judiciary budget to be deposited in that fund as required by Article 173.4 of the Constitution. Furthermore, an analysis of the judiciary budget reveals a steady decline in funding to the judiciary, which presently stands at less than 1% of the national budget. This has been compounded by abrupt and irregular budget cuts that disrupt service delivery and other important processes within the judiciary. There are some years, for instance, when the ICT budget has either been wholly slashed or has not been provided for altogether. And this despite the fact that ICT is core to the judiciary transformation. The inevitable impact of these constraints is the build-up of caseload in our courts, which I pointed out earlier. It is indeed a miracle that the judiciary has continued to deliver services to the people of Kenya, thanks to the sacrifices of our judges, judicial officers, and staff, and the support we have received from the World Bank and other development partners such as IDLO and UNODC. I spoke earlier of the measures that we have taken to complement courts in the dispensation of justice through ADR and alternative systems, as well as the operationalization of the small claims court. However, due to underfunding, these initiatives have taken off in less than the optimal function. We have no money to pay mediators or court adjudicators fees, which has undermined access to justice and in turn undermined the country's ranking in the World Bank Ease of Doing Business report. The net result of all these, ladies and gentlemen, is that the backlog of cases will continue to rise. With the current judge population ratio standing at 3.13 judges to a million people, and the case load now standing at 617,582 as at 30th June 2020, it is going to take about 2 years to clear just this caseload if other cases are not filed. But of course, that is an unrealistic expectation. In reality, Kenyans file an average of 400,000 cases a year against 300 cases that the current number of judges and magistrates are able to clear every year. The other disturbing trend is the routine disobedience of court orders by the executive arm. And I'm not here only referring to the disobedience of court orders involving prominent people in our society. I'm here referring to court orders generally. For instance, a poor peasant takes his neighbor to court for trespass, and the case takes a number of years to determine before he obtains a court order. As the judiciary has no coercive power, it depends on the police to effect such an eviction or assist in such an eviction. When the warrant of eviction is given to the police, some of them start a new trial at the police station, presided by police officers, literally questioning the propriety and wisdom of the court decisions. Similarly, there are many cases involving the government as the judgment debtor, which are routinely disregarded, leaving the decree holders scornfully deriding the judiciary for issuing paper judgments. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't emphasize more. This is a terrible dent in the administration of justice in this country. There are many such judgments in which wananchi are suffering. Ladies and gentlemen, we are either a nation governed by the rule of law and the principles of constitutionalism, or a jungle republic that Thomas Hobbes talked about a few centuries back, where life, when he said where life is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. And the history is replete with examples that those who nurture the tree of impunity tend in the not too distant future fall victims of their own labors. It is in this vein that I ask Kenyans to reflect on the constitutional changes that are proposed. The true north, ever constant criterion in assessing any changes affecting the judiciary, should be whether the envisaged changes aggrandize or diminish judicial independence. Any changes which breaches the separation of powers or threaten judicial independence could be, without a doubt, a very dangerous retrogressive from the path of constitutionalism Kenyans chose in 2010. As I exit in the next few days, I want to assure Kenyans that I leave behind a solid judiciary. The judges of our courts have made the judgments our courts have made since the promulgation of the Constitution in 2010 attest to this. My fellow countrymen, if you want our courts to determine cases within 2 years and attract investment, as happens in countries like Singapore, your parliamentarians, Mr. Speaker, your parliamentarians have to commit reasonable resources to the judiciary. To avoid reprisals when courts decide cases against the powers that be, have the judiciary constitutionally guaranteed an allocation of at least 3.7% of the national budget, and have it deposited in the judiciary fund immediately after the budget is approved as required by Article 173.4 of the Constitution. Only these measures will truly inoculate the judiciary against the vagaries of short-term political interests expected of the political branches of government. Without such proportionate investment in the judiciary and without increasing the human resource capacity in the number of judges and judicial officers. My fellow countrymen, I want to tell you that the elimination of case backlog will remain a pipe dream. Many of our leaders have, and quite justifiably so, beseeched me to open courts in their areas. Many governors, and I want to thank them, have donated pieces of land to the judiciary to construct courts. A number of MPs, and I also thank them, have gone as far as constructing court buildings with the CDF funds. That is clear testimony of the dire need for courts in many parts of our country. I want to say this, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow Kenyans. Allocate between 5 and 10 billion shillings to the judiciary development kitty every year, and you will have appropriate courts in every corner of the country. With very little resources, actually less than 12 billion, the very important support we have received from the World Bank through JP project, we have already demonstrated that this is possible. To my fellow judges and magistrates, despite all the above enumerated challenges, I beseech you to continue doing your very best. Please be courageous and discharge your duties with unwavering integrity and true to your oath of office. You are the hope of this country. I have been told that many times, and I'm sure you have also been told. Kenyans are proud of you, and myself as your Chief Justice, I am very, very proud of you. Fellow judges and magistrates, please remember that the judiciary plays a critical role in the political stability and economic prosperity of this country. If you falter in the discharge of your duties, especially in the determination of electoral disputes around 2022 general election, what we experienced in 2007-2008 post-election violence would easily recur with worse intensity and implications. Please, 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 judges, don't let that happen. As I conclude, I want to say that many of the achievements that I have enumerated above would not have been possible without the support of many stakeholders. I therefore wish to sincerely thank the Judicial Service Commission. Members have sometimes made you sit late and for very many long hours, but you have graciously endured. At times it has appeared in the media as though there are conflicts among us. I want to assure the nation that we have worked and are working very well together. Differences of opinion should not be taken as conflicts. I want to thank my Deputy Justice Philomena Mwilu and my Chief Registrar of the Judiciary. I sometimes tell people that these women give me hell, but it is good. These ladies have taken my calls even late at night. I want to thank you most sincerely, CRJ. Yesterday you ordered me to come back and I came. I had gone home and she ordered me to come back and I came for important work. You can see how we work. I want also to thank the entire judiciary community for your support and a commitment to a judiciary that delivers. Despite the poor working conditions, your cooperation and commitment to a common agenda in the pursuit of justice and needs of the Kenyan citizenry has been steadfast. I thank the entire justice sector for the cooperation and support that you have accorded me over the last 4 years of my leadership. Through the National Council on Administration of Justice, we have made important gains and achievements in ensuring coherence and coordination of the justice services in the country. Indeed, the manner in which we have managed the COVID-19 pandemic in the justice sector is evidence of this cooperation and commitment to seeking common solutions. I also want to thank the development partners. I can see some of the representatives here. The European Union and UNODC, through the PLEAD project, you have been relentless in your investment to have the voiceless in our marginalized parts of the country heard and their justice needs met. To IDLO, as you have done with other several departments, both in the executive and the legislature, you have been a bulwark of many of the activities in the judiciary. Were it not for your support and wavering support, the current digitization of the judiciary, especially the e-filing system, would have come a crowbar. The Danish, the Dutch, the British, the German, and the American embassies, just to name a few, the judiciary is indebted to you all. I also want to thank the other arms of government, that is the legislature and the executive, for the cooperation they have given me. Finally, and most importantly, I have no suitable words to thank you, the Kenyan people, for your unwavering support for me. That lady I met in Rome, that engineer I met at Heathrow Airport, that gentleman I met in Vienna, that life-timer I met at Kodiaga prison, that student I met at Kenya High School, that lady I worshipped in the Pentecostal Church, Valley Road, at the invitation of Bishop Oginde, that Catholic priest I met in Kakamega, that pastor of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, now deceased, who urged me to be courageous and not to be a living corpse. Not to mention the numerous others here in Kenya and other places, most of whom I have never met, who have accosted me and given me words of encouragement. And not least to my wife and children and my larger family. I want you to know that your kind words gave me courage and stamina to soldier on in spite of the challenges I faced. To my fellow Christians, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and all fellow Christians from other denominations, as well as my brothers and sisters in the Islamic, Hindu, and other faiths, particularly those of you who woke up and lifted me up in prayers, even when I was myself asleep. You are to me, Aaron. To all of you, I say thank you very much. To our president, wherever you are, it is clear there is a difference of opinion between me and you. But I want to assure you and the entire nation that I have nothing personal against you. To the contrary, as you know, Mr. President, I have given you respect as our head of state. Why would I want to fight you, as some people are suggesting? I am apolitical, and I hold no brief for any politician. The security and the intelligence services can assure you of that, and I'm sure they have assured you of that. Once again, to all Kenyans, thank you very much. It was my singular honor and privilege to be of service to you as your Chief Justice. If in any way I annoyed you or I did not live up to your expectation, please understand that I'm only human and forgive me. Though I did not achieve what I planned to do, I retire a very happy man. Above all these thanks and support, fellow Kenyans, I want to thank the Almighty God and categorically state that I've seen God's hand in many of my affairs throughout the 4-year period I have served as the Chief Justice of this great nation. He has thwarted numerous nefarious schemes against me and guided me to this day. I have many times in tears gone down on my knees to thank him. He has shown me a glimpse, just a glimpse of what it entails when one seeks to honor God in one's work, especially in high and sensitive positions like the one of Chief Justice, which he privileged me to occupy. I will be eternally grateful to him for considering me worthy of his favors and mercy in spite of my sins. To God be the glory. God bless you. God bless Kenya. Thank you very much.
I love my sense of...
Ladies and gentlemen, in our midst is the Solicitor General. Ordinarily, the Solicitor General should have spoken before me. But because he's having a speech of His Excellency the President, protocol requires that the President's speech be read after everyone's speech. So now it's my pleasure to invite Mr. Ken Ogeto, the Solicitor General, to deliver the President's speech. Mr. Ogeto.
The Honorable Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court, Honorable David Kenani Maraga, Honorable Judges and Magistrates present, the Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Kenneth Lusaka, members of Parliament present, members of the Law Society of Kenya present, led by the President of the Law Society, Mr. Nelson Harvey, ambassadors and high commissioners who may be present, representatives of development partners present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to start by conveying the apologies of His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, who was not able to be with us today due to other compelling state duties. Allow me also to convey the apologies of the Honorable the Attorney General, who is not with us today and is engaged in other state functions. My noble and distinct responsibility this afternoon is to read His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya's speech on this important occasion. And I now start reading that speech. I am pleased to address you this afternoon on yet another occasion of the presentation of the State of the Judiciary and Administration of Justice report. May I begin by taking this opportunity to thank the Honorable the Chief Justice and the Judiciary at large for the invitation to join you today for this event. Today's event, just like those in the past years, is a critical one. It is the opportunity, once again, for the judiciary and the justice sector to engage in a self-assessment of what has been done to live up to the constitutional dictates of access to and fair administration of justice. It is also the opportunity to reflect and reorient our steps where necessary and to report to Kenyans about the progress that has been made, the challenges that have been faced, and the promise that lies ahead as far as promoting access to justice and ensuring the fair administration of justice is concerned. Ladies and gentlemen, the executive is without a doubt a key player in the justice sector. As you would all know, the national government, through the Office of the Attorney General, is a direct client and consumer of judicial services as a party to civil and judicial review cases. Many of government's decisions, policies, and projects are often the subject of court cases. The government also has an overarching interest in the promotion of the public good and security through the use of the criminal law tool of prosecution. This position should place the executive in a position to make useful contributions on an occasion such as this, when the state of the judiciary and the justice sector is under review. Ladies and gentlemen, the period since 2010, when the current constitution was promulgated, has seen remarkable and continued progress in the judiciary and the justice sector as a whole. As I observed in a past similar occasion, the progress has been in various ways. For instance, more court stations have been established, thereby ensuring that more citizens have courts closer to them. There has been an increase in the number of judges and judicial officers, with the positive effect that case backlogs have significantly been reduced. The space of independence within which the judiciary operates has also grown much wider, just as has our general democratic space. The increased judicial support for the use of alternative dispute resolution mechanisms has also led to faster and amicable settlement of disputes, thereby ensuring that our people's economic, social, and political activities are not held back by adversarial and lengthy, overly technical courtroom proceedings. Through alternative dispute resolution, our people are able to access simplified and affordable justice processes. A lot of resources, both public and private, are saved in this way and expended in other productive activities. While this progress is commendable, more can be done to enlighten our people on the value and merit of alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. There is also the need to enhance the capacity of our local alternative dispute resolution mechanisms in order to entrench them as reputable, credible, and reliable dispute resolution forum, locally, regionally, and internationally. Admittedly, however, 2020 has been a particularly difficult year for all of us on account of the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic, the worst of its kind in a century, has disrupted our lives in serious and largely unprecedented ways. Sadly and regrettably, many families have lost their loved ones and others their livelihoods. The pandemic has had ramifications even on access to justice. I am aware that many of our court stations have had to be closed for considerable periods of time on account of the COVID-19 containment measures. Insofar as the efficient administration of justice is concerned, this has not only delayed the determination of cases, but also created backlogs that will require time and effort to clear in the coming days and months. But as they say, ladies and gentlemen, every cloud has a silver lining. In the context of the pandemic, the judiciary has had to adopt useful and much-needed technology to ensure that the administration of justice is not entirely hampered. I wish to take this opportunity, therefore, to commend the judiciary for the launch of the electronic filing system and the introduction of virtual hearings. The commendation is not just for the launch of this technology, it is also with respect to the speed and timeliness that this was done. The potential of technology in enhancing and promoting access to justice cannot be overemphasized. The reduced costs and easier access to the courts, be it physically or virtually, are critical components that address some of the major challenges that have historically undermined our people's access to justice. The onus is now upon all of us as players and stakeholders in the justice sector to work on ways of improving the current systems and ensuring that every nook and corner of our republic is adequately covered by the technologies that we use. We must take care, for instance, to ensure that the adoption of technology does not translate to the digital divide in this country into an access to justice challenge as well. We need to find ways of ensuring that those without access to internet, for instance, are not denied the opportunity to access justice. We also need to ensure that the technology we use is friendly, simple, comprehensible, and beneficial to both those who have and those who do not have legal representation. This is what we must do to achieve equality in access to justice. Ladies and gentlemen, as the executive, we remain and will continue to do so, supportive and respective of the judiciary and of its independence. I have indeed indicated on many previous occasions that the judiciary is and must remain independent. After all, as I have already noted, the executive is itself a key, indeed the single largest consumer of judicial services. The independence of the judiciary matters a lot, therefore, to the executive, if not for anything else, for the reason that it is only such independence that will guarantee fairness and justice to all, including the executive. In this regard, constructive and harmonious relationships between all the arms of government, namely the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature, are critical to the preservation of the Constitution and of the rule of law. While our Constitution contemplates a separation of powers between the various arms of government, it also envisages interdependence and cooperation. Indeed, I'm aware that the Supreme Court has itself held in several cases, independence does not mean isolation. This is in accord with what Mwananchi rightly perceives and expects, that we are all one government and that we have public duties to perform and deliver services. Let us not forget that much of the progress that we have seen in the judiciary in recent years has taken the concerted and collective effort of all the arms of government, Parliament in passing the requisite laws, and the executive in formulating and implementing enabling and facilitative policies. The Constitution expects that the various arms of government should assert their independence in accordance with its letter and, perhaps more importantly, its spirit. These words by the American social theorist Thomas Sowell are as true of the judiciary as they are of any other arm of government. And I quote, "An independent judiciary does not mean judges independent of the Constitution from which they derive their power or independent of the laws that they are sworn to uphold." End of quote. The overarching objective of the Constitution is the protection and the preservation of the public interest. The Constitution contemplates that this shall be attained through constructive engagement and cooperation between the various arms of government. That is what we must do. Anything else will be a departure from what the Constitution mandates us and requires us to do. We must not use our independence to create the perception that the various arms of government are rivals or that they are at war. We all work and have to work for one main overriding objective, the public interest. We cannot purport to work in the name of the Constitution when what we do defeats the core objectives of the same Constitution we claim to be safeguarding. Ladies and gentlemen, during my address on the last occasion, I pointed out how many government projects all of them intended for the public good, have been derailed by court injunctions and similar disruptive orders, often without granting the government the opportunity to be heard. I pointed out how this negatively impacts on service delivery to Mwananchi, including in sensitive areas such as security. In several instances, Kenya has lost billions of shillings worth of investment on account of capital flight, as investors who cannot fathom the delays caused by court injunctions and delayed court proceedings find other more facilitative investment destinations. Today, I once again call upon the judiciary to always bear in mind the public interest when rendering decisions. The judiciary must not pander to the whims of vested interests and cartels keen to propagate their private and selfish interests in the name of public interest litigation. While I appreciate that the Constitution allows every person to institute proceedings in defense of the public interest, it is the role of the judiciary to ensure that the sacred vehicle of public interest litigation is not violated by those whose sole intention is to advance their own personal interests. It is also the role of the judiciary to assist in advancing the war against corruption through expeditious trials of those who are charged with or suspected of the commission of economic crimes, and bringing to account those who are found culpable. Anything short of this will mean that we are merely paying lip service to the war against corruption. Our courts must help preserve the confidence of Kenyans in our institutions. Kenyans can only be assured that our institutions are capable of discharging their mandate if those institutions actually deliver and deliver timely. Those who attempt to use such institutions corruptly for personal gain must therefore be held to account in a timely manner. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, I note that this is the last occasion with the Honorable Justice Maraga as the Chief Justice. I wish to take this opportunity to thank him immensely for his service to the Kenyan people in the various positions he has held in the judiciary, including his latest call of duty as Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court of Kenya. The Honorable the Chief Justice, I take this opportunity to wish you and your family well in your future endeavors. May God bless you. Ladies and gentlemen, I should like at this juncture to thank you very much for your audience and wish you all well. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Solicitor General, for that the delivery from His Excellency the President. And that marks the end of this session of speeches and addresses. So I'll now welcome you to the next session, which is the unveiling of the State of the Judiciary and Administration of Justice report for 2019-2020. Together with the unveiling of the Supreme Court strategic plan for 2020-2024. I therefore would invite the high table led by the Honorable Chief Justice, the Deputy Chief Justice, to kindly approach the curtains where we have, we'll do the unveiling. As soon as kindly we can use the back first. Quicker, you can pass and meet to the other side. Yeah, so the delegation, the High Table is approaching the place of the unveiling of the report. And the curtains which have covered the large screen will start off. And as the curtains start rolling, please, I invite the GSU band to do the drums roll. As the curtains open, please, the GSU band, the drums roll, and the cheers, please, as we start off. The curtains will be drawing in a minute. Kindly, the band, you can now. Thank you very much, Grant, for the report is produced and background music. So that is the report for 2019-2020 for the Judiciary, and also the screenplay for the strategic plan of the Supreme Court for 2019-2020. Okay, so thank you. Next, we have some copies of the report. Kindly, the team of ushers hand over the Chief Justice, and the members of the High Table. And we can move slightly to cover the screen for the photo session. Kindly, Justice Mohammed Ibrahim has joined them, the chair of the Strategic Planning Committee of the Supreme Court.
The pictures on your screen, that is the official launch of the Soldier Report by Chief Justice David Kenani Maraga, including the Supreme Court strategic plan for the year 2020 to the year 2024. Indeed, it has been a colorful event, and it is the last one that Chief Justice David Maraga will be handling because next year he's supposed to retire in January. And as we wrap up here,
yes.
Counsel Ishmael Nyaribo,
yes,
what can you make of the Chief Justice speech and also the President's speech as read by Solicitor General Ken Ogeto?
Yes, I think they are very strong speeches from both, arms of the government, and they're actually speaking the same thing. If you listen to what they are saying, one is saying that we must look at the public interest. The other one is saying we must be, allow independence and constitutionalism. I mean, they are saying the same thing, but each from his mandate.
Yes.
So I guess what the Chief Justice is trying to say is get your knee off our neck. We want to do our work. And the President is saying, I have a huge public interest mandate I must also fulfill. So I think, like the President's speech has indicated, there is importance of looking for a way to work together where both of them need each other, and that independence does not mean that you are at opposing sides, that you are only fulfilling your mandate as different arms of government.
Of course, his last speech, and he has talked about what he has done from when he was given the mantle by Dr. Mutunga. Give him a scorecard. of what he's done
I think,
for 5 years.
Yes, but if you listen to the president's speech, yes, they have actually congratulated the Chief Justice for his stellar work during his tenure as a Chief Justice. They have highlighted the hardship the Chief Justice had. They've both financially and the COVID-19, they have recognized that and said actually he has done very well. But you can hear a Chief Justice who is going out saying we must never intoxicate state power with the judiciary or into the judiciary. There should be no holding brief for the state if you're working in the judiciary. So he has really emphasized the independence of the judiciary, and that has come out quite well.
Indeed. Thank you so much. That has been Ishmael Nyaribo, an advocate of the High Court. Of course, we were here even before the event started, trying to put into perspective some of the milestones that the CJ, being its final state of the judiciary and administration of justice report. Finally, thank you so much for watching. I'm Ben Troy Njue. It has been always a pleasure having you on board. Now, I give the mantle to Edward Kabasa with the latest news.
Ni mimi. Ulitoa pikipiki? Mlitani sitaomoka. Ni yako. Hii nduti ni yangu. Niliwahi pale QuickBit. QuickBit? QuickBit imekuja kusaidia wananchi kama sisi. Nilinunua 399 shillings. Juu nilikuwa the lowest unique bidder. 399 shillings. QuickBit shilingi moja unaweza nunua pizza. Shilingi mbili unaweza nunua microwave. Shilingi tano unaweza nunua hata gari. So tupeleke huko hata mtu aende huko.
Jiunga na QuickBit ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbit.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. QuickBit, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
It is an all Egyptian affair and a fast for cow.